Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us this afternoon for our Archiving as a Service for J.D. Edwards presentation. My name is Mike Aaron, and I will be your host and MC and do part of the presentation this afternoon. And I am joined by the illustrious Russell Stainer, who's the head of sales for Click IT for this as well. A little bit about Russ and I on the slides. You can tell which one is Russ. He's the younger looking one than me. I'm the one down at the bottom. I'm currently a senior advisor for Team Kane Solutions. Been in the J.D. Edwards space for over 35 years. Been doing purging and archiving, or archiving and purging for 16 years, 17 years with Team Kane, about 10 years directly with J.D. Edwards, and working with the Purge-it product for about 7 years. Russ is coming up on 2 decades in J.D. Edwards, including a decade with Click IT and J.D. Edwards Archiving, and specifically with the Purge-it solution in that. Russ, if you want to take a quick second and just talk a little bit about Click IT.
Yeah, sure. Click IT, we're 100% J.D. Edwards consultancy. It's what we do and what our customers believe we do very well. All of the people within Click IT are long-standing J.D. Edwards consultants, and we've all got at least 19 years of hands-on J.D. Edwards experience. And if you remember back to the slide where I was, I'm the youngster with only 19 years of experience. So everyone else has got more than me. I'm still learning. Click IT, we were formed in '98 and we became an Oracle partner in 2004. And the main reason for becoming a partner is so that we could get the latest releases of the J.D. Edwards software as soon as they became available, and therefore keep our products in line with our customers' installations of J.D. Edwards. So for example, at general availability date of J.D. Edwards 9.1 and 9.2, we had Purge-it on the shelf ready to go for those releases at the GA date. So it's a real benefit being a partner and being able to get the software early. And as you can see at the bottom there, we're getting on for 200 customers at Purge-it around the world. I haven't put this year's customers in, so we might even have tipped over the top as well.
Woohoo! Excellent. Thanks, Russ. So in terms of Team Kane, I know a number of people on the webinar are probably familiar with us. You're probably familiar with the fact as well that as of June 1st of this year, the previous owner, which was me, sold Team Kane to ISP3 Solutions Inc., which is another J.D. Edwards partner, and they're actually a platinum partner with a lot more strengths even than we had. So Team Kane Solutions Inc., as we're called now, still very much has a lot of strength in J.D. Edwards. In addition, we do Oracle Cloud Infrastructure as a Service, helping customers get onto the Oracle Public Cloud. ISP3 actually runs in the public cloud with J.D. Edwards. So we are also a NetSuite partner, which is another one of the offerings from Oracle. In terms of other solutions, in addition to the J.D. Edwards, the Advanced Data Archiving Purge-it, which is what we're highlighting as the Archive as a Service today, there's a number of products for package build automation, self-serve password reset, built-in AP automation for J.D. Edwards, our pre-built Smart BI Publisher forms, BI Publisher packs that I know some of you on the session are actually using, and a product that we've worked with for probably coming up on 20 years now, RF Smart for RF automation within J.D. Edwards. These are all, other than BI Publisher packs, also Oracle validated integration. So enough about us. Let's talk about purging and archiving as a service. The product that we are talking about here is the Purge-it solution. What we are talking about is a way that we have come up with to get past what we have found over the years to be a couple of the pressure points for getting done what should be done, which is actually archiving and potentially purging J.D. Edwards data. So we're going to do a quick recap of Purge-it. Going to talk about a little bit about the benefits just to refresh it for everybody. What we're then going to do is look at the traditional pricing model that we've used for the Purge-it solution, then talk about archiving as a service and how the pricing model for that works and the offerings. Do a comparison. If we have time, we'll dive in and do a bit of a demo on the actual Purge-it product, and talk about what the next steps could be for yourselves, and Q&A. We will stop several times for questions as we go through. So did want to just ask 2 quick poll questions before we start off. So if you don't mind responding to these, that would be great. So the first one is asking whether you've seen anything about the Purge-it product before. So answers are yes, no, not sure, or, and I'm pretty sure this will be the case for some, we are actually currently using the product. So part of it for ourselves as well is when we get to later on, if there's a chance that people are not familiar with the Purge-it product, makes it even more beneficial for us to try and share it with you. So just give it another couple of seconds here. We're up to a little over 70% voting, so it probably got all that we're going to get. So it's responses were about 57%, 58% yes, and 43% no. So most of the people, Russ, have seen or heard of the Purge-it product, which is good. And
Yeah,
let's
that means
do
our
the next.
marketing is working a bit.
Yeah, probably so. And the other one, and this we're really interested in. This is the first webinar we've done on archiving as a service, so really keen and interested in responses on this. So if you haven't archived or purged yet, why? Could be any one of these. So time and resources, we hear a lot. Get the funding. You can't see any reason to do so. And people often think of it in terms of disk or performance, and we don't have any disk or performance issues. So trending about what I would have put some money on initially, right, Russ, so far?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, keep them coming. For a little over half the people have voted so far. This, I think, is useful for the other people on the webinar because this is, there's other customers here, so this is the feedback from your peers out there in the business. So keep it open for maybe another 10 seconds or so. So if you haven't voted, do go ahead. Put your responses in. Okay, cool. So coming up on 90% is the time and resources one. So that's about what we would have expected. And actually a little on the low side, I would have thought. A little under a third can't get the funding, and a little under a third disk performance issues. And nobody said can't see any reason to do so. So that's actually kind of good news. So from my perspective, it kind of validates what we would think, I think, for this, Russ, right?
Yeah, so, it recognises, or everyone is recognising that purging and archiving is a best practice to be implementing in the organisation.
Yeah, it's just a matter of how do we get there. So do a quick overview on Purge-it for people that are familiar. There might be some new stuff here. If not, for people that aren't, a quick sousson of information here. Purge-it it's the only JD Edwards-specific purging and archiving solution. And by JD Edwards specific, we mean it's purpose-built for JD Edwards. It's built entirely within the JD Edwards tool set. When it's installed, it runs like another module. You'd be hard-pressed to tell the difference between Purge-it and receivables or payables or work orders. Processing options, data selection, just exactly like anything else. Enterprise one pages, graphical interface. The purge processes run as batch versions. What's really nice, this is with taking advantage of some of the newer capabilities that have come out, graphical dashboards to monitor sessions and the whole environment. And if we get to being able to do a bit of a presentation on this, that's one of the places that we'll start, so you can see that. It's got transaction level auditing and error reporting. Great when things go well. You don't need this. We do deal in the real world. Not often do things go well. So being able to know at a transactional level why you might have had a problem in archiving transactions, documents, is really, really helpful. That's both online and reporting. You can do instant or scheduled cancellations. So if you're running out of time, or if you want to be able to have it stop at a certain time, you can do that. Reversal of items that are archived as well. You can do full, you can do partial, and you can get down to the individual document level. So that has been very handy for customers that we worked with before. So why do you need something like Purge-it? We most often have customers talking to us because of database size. They've been on the system for 22 years. They got 2.5 terabytes. They're running manufacturing, and the messaging files are growing in leaps and bounds. Same thing with payroll. So database size. Oftentimes it's performance as well. The more data you've got in some of the files, the longer it's going to take, be that interactive or batch and chewing through things. We have actually had customers that wish they had done this before because they got sued and they had to send somebody off for, I think it was 6 weeks for a trial with the data, and it cost them probably around $25,000 to $30,000. Also for making sure that you're complying with whatever your data retention policy is internally. An interesting byproduct of doing archiving and purging is as we go through, or as the customer goes through the analysis, it's almost astonishing how often we run across some wrinkles with the data that when we dive deeper, we uncover problems with business processes. My gut says probably 75% of the customers that we've worked with on north of 30, 35 projects, that's what we have. So the active data management, the graphical dashboards that you get with Purge-it are also extremely helpful for keeping your finger on the pulse of the data that you've got out there by environment, by module, etc. So it also can lead you to faster and more confident upgrades. Oracle, as you know, suggests that you upgrade before you do, or that you purge before you do an upgrade. So this allows you to do it. It's a smaller database. If you're coming from an older release in particular, it really cuts down on the amount of data, which makes it easier. An often forgotten one is if you've got a smaller database, certainly from a production side, and you do have to declare a disaster and get your disaster recovery going, it's going to be a quicker recovery. Generally speaking, if you've got less data, if your system's faster, you've got more throughput, your staff's more efficient. So maybe you end up with less staff, but at a minimum, you're certainly going to end up with more efficient staff. You've definitely seen that as the performance improves, you're going to have less concerning calls to your help desk saying what's going on, and just the ongoing benefits for improvement that you're going to get, hardware time, labor, compliance, costs, all that good stuff. When we're looking at purging and archiving, if we're talking to an organization about what you want to do, this is a date-driven discussion. So on the right-hand side, we have where we're at today. If you're on a calendar year basis, you're partway into year 2018. Backing up from there is how much do you want to keep in production? So if currently you have 10, 12, 15, 18 years of data, a discussion is around what do you consider current enough to want to have right in production. We have seen most often this is current plus 2 years. We've seen up to current plus 5, but not often beyond that. Interestingly, when you get into discussions around this, there's typically users that want an awful lot more. You dive into discussions around why that is. Invariably, there's ways to accommodate what they're looking for without encumbering your production system. Moving beyond that, there's what you keep in archive, typically separate tables, so you're not impacting production. You're getting the production benefits for performance and data size. That will typically be up to your legal requirements. So let's call that 7 years. We've seen more, we've seen less than that, and we'll get into, when we're talking about options with archive as a service, ways that you can handle variances within your organization. Beyond that, you could have your archive of your archive, or you can just be deleting it entirely. So the idea here is you're going about this in a systematic approach, keeping what you need in production, moving what you don't need into an accessible storage, the archive, and the things that you truly don't need for legal or other purposes, you're getting rid of, or you're moving maybe into an archive as of an archive that you're moving into cold storage. When we're talking about data retention, because archiving and purging is one of the focuses for us and for the Purge-it solution, we do have a document that speaks to data retention policy, things to consider, and what the implications might be in the system and talking to users and in configuring the solution. So certainly something that we can make available to you. We have found in the past that the discussions with the business users around defining the retention policy is typically about the longest part of the process, believe it or not, more so than installing, configuring the system, and running the actual archive routines. So any thoughts you wanted to add in there, Russell, at this point, or any questions yet?
We've got one question at the moment. In this solution, is the Purge-it software hosted in the cloud or on-premise?
That's a great question. When we talk about something rather, X as a service, that's a pretty common question. So it's not. The solution is still hosted on site for a lot of good reasons. So this is not cloud, nor do we take your data and move it into the cloud. So this is an on-premise solution for you, whatever your premise is. And that obviously, if you're using a service bureau or you are hosting your JD Edwards, then Purge-it is installed where your JD Edwards is.
I've got another couple of questions just popped in as well. We've got, can I report from the legacy data?
By legacy data, I'm assuming the question is related to the data that is put into archive.
Yeah.
The answer to that, yeah. So yes, you could. You're going to have your data in a separate set of tables. There's actually two options, which is unique with Purge-it. But there is the ability to, because it's JD Edwards and the JD Edwards tool set, you can build a bridge or a view between your archive data and your production data, and to be able to get to both for reporting purposes. Because the structure of the tables are pretty much the same between your archive and your production, it's pretty seamless. With that as an assessment, Russ?
Yep, that's good. Indeed, some of the business intelligence solutions out there also allow you to piece two different locations together and union them together within them as well. So you can either use a database view approach to join data together, or you can use your existing BI solution or a different BI solution as well. And we've got one last question that's here at the moment. Can I also archive custom tables?
Yes, you absolutely can. We'll get to that. The Purge-it solution absolutely supports that. And when we look at the tiers available to you within the archive as a service, we will touch on where that can come in as well. So all great questions. So thanks, Russ.
That's okay.
So what we're going to do to start off with is, for the point counterpoint, we're going to talk about the traditional pricing model. So in particular, if you are an existing Purge-it customer, this will make sense to you, because this is what you would have started out with. So when we're looking at it, a perpetual license model, and the first one we're going to look at here is what we call a DIY approach. So that's a do-it-yourself for your archive project. The idea there is we come in, we install the software, we train you on how to do it. The training is a couple of days, and because it's JD Edwards and it's familiarity for you, you run off and you take care of it yourself. So in that model, the big blue bar is the perpetual license for the Purge-it product. The red bar, which occurs each year, is your annual maintenance. And the green bar is for the consulting services that you would use. So that's the installation and the training. So up front, big hit is obviously on the software, because you're licensing the software forever. After that, it's the annual maintenance to give you access to support, upgrades, etc. Similarly, when we are doing archive projects with customers, the continuum of services at one end is the DIY approach. So install it, train us. We got the resources, we've got the time, and we want to internalize it, so we'll run with it. At the other end of the spectrum is people that come screaming up and say, holy, we want to do this. We're running out of time. We don't have the resources. Do it for us. We want to outsource the project to you. And likely, going forward, we want you to come back and help us out by keeping us clean and current each year. In a scenario like that, you notice there's still the licensing. There's still the annual maintenance each year. The services are higher in the first year because we are doing the project for you. And in subsequent years, we're coming back and we're doing another archive of another year's worth of data. We're seeing if anything's changed. You've added it, maybe you added in the payroll module. We need to account for that going forward. And we're taking a year out of your archive maybe and just purging that data. So there's a lot more services in this model if it's an outsourced one. So the advantage is you own the software. You choose whether it's a DIY or outsource. And I really want you to keep that in mind as we're going forward, looking at the archive as a service, because it's one of the key differences and things you really need to think about. And honestly, it's only a 1-year rolling commitment to the annual maintenance. The disadvantages, it's a larger upfront cost, depending upon the investment level and what your corporate standards are. It might be a CapEx, so you have to go through separate approval. And the services are billed as they're consumed. The good news on our side is we only bill for what we need. So if we've estimated 15 days for the project first year and you only use 12, we're only going to charge you for 12. So the archive as a service and the pricing for that is brand new. As I mentioned at the start, this is the first full webinar. We've done individual ones, but this is the first public webinar we're doing on the solution. So the scope for archive as a service is it can be World or Enterprise One. So just like the Purge-it solution, I know there's at least one World customer on this. So A73 to A94 for Enterprise One or One World, all the way from back to XE up to 9.2. And if it's a database data sources that are supported by Enterprise One, we support it. The services and the solution are available through Click or partners such as Team Kane. One of the big differences is we do the purging and archiving for you. So when we're looking at the features, it's any size database. So we have some cutoffs. We'll be talking about those. There's a small increase if you've got really large databases. We're talking about north of a terabyte. You have 1, 3, or 5-year options. Honestly, we're seeing 3 or 5-year as the main ones. There's 5 different tiers that we'll be talking about. If you're an existing Purge-it customer, we do have one of the tiers that's targeted specifically for you because you already own the software. And this is priced per instance of JD Edwards. By instance, really, we're talking about if you're a multinational or if you're a large organization and you have a standalone instance for North America, you have another instance of JD Edwards for EMEA, you have another one for South America. Each of those, we'd be looking at doing the pricing for them individually, largely because the services tied to them are by instance. So
on the, just to one point, Mike, on the discount if Purge-it is owned, that applies across all 5 tiers as well. So if somebody goes with tiers 2 to 5, then that's, that also applies to there as well.
Right, good point. I mean, we think of it in terms of sustaining, but it can be for the others as well. Yep.
Yep.
So what does it mean for the model? Well, typically you've got the product, which is you'd normally be embedding, and then you've got the services and the annual maintenance. We've talked about those in terms of the classical model. What we're introducing here is what it is from an archiving as a service. So you can see the swings up and down in the blue, the pink, and the green bars in the classic model. The purple shows that it's a straight line. So it's a standardized rate because it's a service that's being provided running across the board for the duration of it. So from a cost versus price, on our side, the cost provided is an awful lot higher initially because we're doing the installation, we're doing the initial workshops, we're doing the initial catch-up archiving, possibly purging as well. Then after that, the services are lower than the price that's being charged. The annual maintenance is factored in as well across the board. So in essence, for us, it's more of a, there's an awful lot more upfront than what you're paying for. If it was a 1-year model, basically it would be priced so that the software component, the services, the maintenance would be priced so that it's the same as what it's costing us to provide it to you. So really, when you get into things like the 3-year model, again, higher in the first year, lower in the second and third year, but it's a consistent standard amount for yourselves. And for 5 years, the same thing, and the annual cost goes down because it's spread out over a longer period of time. We have a number of different tiered packages, and maybe before we get to that, we'll stop again for any questions, Russ. I do want to point out as well that the real focus here is organizations that have trouble getting approval for an archive and purge project because of upfront costs, because this takes that away and smooths it out. It's more of a service model, so that helps out in getting approval. It's also for organizations that say we really can and should do it, we just don't have the time. That also takes that away because we are doing it for you. So if what would be holding you up from doing a project like this is approval for upfront cost and finding the resources to do it, this should take it away. And when we look at the tiered packages, you'll see that there's flexibility in what you're actually getting within each of the packages. So, Russ, questions?
Yep, we've got a couple, Mike. So the first one is, do you have to license for non-prod, i.e. PY?
You have to license for non-prod. Yeah, do you want to check that one, Russ?
Yeah.
I think I know the answer, but just to be sure.
Yeah, sure. So there, within the tiered packages, as we'll see in a minute, the lower end packages target just PD. So you get the purging and or archiving done in PD, but then the higher end packages also allow you for a full cycle of purging and archiving in PY as well.
Cool.
And then the other question is, do we need to dedicate any resources for this project or to get trained on the Purge-it software?
So the dedicate resources to it, I wouldn't say dedicate. The whole idea of doing it as a service is that's what we're there for. The reality is we will need input from you and probably the business users as well. Technically, we'll need some assistance in where are we going to install environments, a bunch of things like that. And from the business users, somebody needs to make decisions as to what the retention policy is. What we do for all of them, we'll see this with all of the packages, is there's a workshop at the beginning for all packages, and that's where we're defining it and we provide information up front. So yes, there's some involvement, but compared to what you would normally need to run the routines, not nearly as much. So that makes sense to you as well, Russ?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and in terms of the second bit, or to get trained on the Purge-it software, then as Mike says, because we're doing all of the purging and archiving for you, we're effectively taking it off of your hands, so you don't need to get trained in that. It's not one of your, you might see it as not being one of your core competencies, which also might be another reason for outsourcing it as well. We've already got 327 things on our plate. Do we want another one?
Yeah, maybe reclaim your weekends. Yay!
Yeah.
So, package overviews. We have sustaining, basic, advanced, professional, and enterprise. The sustaining package is only available for existing Purge-it customers. Large point for that is because it's factored in that you've already licensed the software. So, general terms, the bars might change a little bit if there's some options you want to add in, but generally speaking, sustaining is the lowest level in terms of investment, and moving up the chain, basic, advanced, professional, and enterprise get subsequently, there's more of an investment. And in return for that, there's more service and more offerings that are being provided, and we'll step through those. So, Russ, I'll switch it over to yourself and I'll give my voice a break and let you pick over for the next few slides, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure, no worries. Okay, so for the existing Purge-it customers, there's obviously the use of the pre-owned Purge-it software. So you've already bought Purge-it, you've already got it installed, you already know about it. You've got the perpetual license, and if you're on annual maintenance, then you've got the functional support, the access to the user manual, and also the Purge-it knowledge base as well. So that continues because you've already bought the software and you still continue to access that. So in all of the packages, as Mike said before, there's a sort of one terabyte limit for the first 3 packages, and then for the top 2 packages up to 2 terabytes, and then for the enterprise package up to 5 terabytes. So if you do want one of those packages, but you do have more data, then there's just a small increase in terms of 10% per terabyte thereafter, and that's just because the purging and archiving process will take longer and take longer to manage as well. For all of the packages, we'll assign a dedicated client project manager to you. So they'll be your point person throughout the whole term of the contract, whether it be 1, 3, 5 years. And normally these dedicated client project managers are also Purge-it consultants as well. So they could be the person who is actually doing all of the purging and archiving for you as well. So we like to try and keep things keep it simple, stupid. So nice and simple. You don't have 27 people trying to do the one job. All of the services are provided remotely. It's IT nowadays, so we can do everything via GoToMeeting or VPN or whatever. And obviously any technical support that's required is included. There shouldn't be any functional support required because we're doing the purging and archiving, so you're not running anything functionally. We're doing all of that as well. So all of the packages, again, we cover the archiving in the production system, and we cover all of the modules, all of the standard modules there that are within Purge-it. So those 8 standard modules: general ledger, accounts receivable, accounts payable, inventory, sales, purchasing, work orders, and also the HR and payroll module as well. And we did a bit of a sort of best practice or due diligence, and the majority of Purge-it customers all have 6, 7, or 8 modules anyway. So if you suddenly start using another one of the modules that you don't that you wouldn't have thought that you were owning before, then don't worry, because it's already covered. We go through and use best practice archiving, so the recommended settings that we've got from using Purge-it over the past 13 or 14 years. So there are recommended options for all of the different processing options in the purge and archive processes, and during the kickoff workshops we'll use we'll go through each one of those and say this is what we got, this is why we're setting it, and this is how it links into your data as well. So we'll look at your data, see whether you've got records in particular tables, and then set the processing options accordingly. As Mike mentioned, in the first year we're going to be doing catch-up archiving, so from system inception to your current data retention date. So if you've got 25 years of data in the system, you've migrated it all from World, you've kept it all in the same place, then we're going to be going all the way from system inception up to whatever your data retention date is. And normally we see sort of 2 years plus current kept in production, up to about 7 years kept in the archive, and then if you're on one of the packages that then allows you to purge from the archive, then anything older than 7 years can then get purged as well. And the last point on there was about scheduled archiving. So for all of the packages, we can set all of the purging and archiving routines up on the scheduler. So after we've done the catch up, put it on the scheduler, and it can be then running on whatever frequency you require. Should it be weekly? Should it be monthly? Should it be quarterly? Those kind of things. And we also have dynamic dates within there as well. So if you want to dynamically track based on fiscal date patterns or based on current system date, then we can do that for you as well. So again, in all packages, we have a scoping and definition workshop in the first year. So that's where we sit down for a couple of hours and we just go through everything and we say, okay, what are we going to do with this? Here are all the options. This is what we're going to set them at, and this is how we're going to run across the course of the 3 or 5 year contract. We've got Purge-it dashboards as well, which if we get time, we'll have a look at those in the in the system as well, so you can see what's available. And because they're predominantly read-only dashboards, these are things that we can give you a quick overview during the definition workshops, and then say, if you want to see what we're actually doing in your system, then just have a look at these dashboards, and it gives you graphical information about how the purging and archiving is going. And then ongoing monitoring of all of the purge and archive routines as well. So if we've got the routine set up on the scheduler, then we'll come back into the system every month and just have a look and see how everything's going. So all of the packages, apart from sustaining, because sustaining is only available for existing Purge-it customers, all of the other packages also allow for provision of the Purge-it software, performing the Purge-it software installation, doing the technical configuration, which means setting up database data sources, creating and moving archive tables around, setting up any OCMs that are required in production, but also setting up archive environments and OCMs for those environments as well. And as I mentioned before, with any of the packages, if you are an existing Purge-it customer, then those elements wouldn't need to be done, and therefore there's a little bit of a discount for existing Purge-it customers as well. So if we look at the individual packages, then so everything that we've talked about before, all of that's in sustaining. The second package is basic, and what basic does is it says you can also, so it's got everything that's in sustaining, and we'll also do manual archiving up to 4 times per year. So we'll actually come in and we'll run all of the purge and archives manually and just monitor them rather than just having them sat on the scheduler. We'll run them and review all of the information that's in there. You can have a Purge-it, a yearly Purge-it software update if you want to have that plugged into the system. We'll do that for you as well. And also we'll deliver a catch-up archiving report as well. So if you've got the 25 years, you're going to 2 years, what's happened to those other 23 years of data, how much data is in live, how much data is in the archive, and also what functional and technical errors have been kicked out as part of the purging and archiving processes. For the advanced model, so everything in basic, which by default then includes everything in sustaining as well, plus as somebody asked, Carlos asked the question earlier, you also get a full round of archiving in PY as well. So if it's important to the business to get archived in PY, then get a business sign off before you go into production, this advanced package is probably the lowest package that you would want to consider. We also include tailored archiving in here, so if you want different data retention dates between different modules and also multiple options within the same module as well, so keep 3 years of sales blankets but 1 year of sales orders, for example, and then separately keep 2 years plus current in finance, then this is where you can bring in different data retention dates as well. All of the Purge-it software updates are applied. So on the previous one, it said a yearly software update. If we've delivered multiple software updates during the year, then all of those can be applied, and all of those are within the same JD Edwards release that you're currently on, that you signed up for. And also an annual review workshop as well. So if you're going for a 3 or a 5 year, it's nice to be able to just sort of sit down, have a bit of again, a couple of hours. What happened last year? Do we need to change anything? Let's move forward this year. Do we need to switch to a different package? Those kind of things.
And is it true, Russ, that the annual review that shortbread and scones and tea are provided to the customer as part of that?
Well, I'm gonna create them here on my desk. Whether I can shove them down the GoToMeeting panel, I don't know.
So maybe shared via webcam or
yeah,
sort of thing. So scanned images, Instagram.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture.
Cool. Alrighty then.
So in the professional, again, everything in advanced and everything before that, plus We then introduce other and custom table archiving. So that was another question from Carlos. Can I archive custom tables? This is where that would come into this package. And that's where maybe you want to archive your F55 tables. You want to archive customer statements because you've got 20 million records in the FA3B21 and so on. Also, if you wanted to purge from the archive, so delete the records that are in the archive where they're older than 7 years, for example, this is where purging from the archive comes in as well. And that includes catch-up purging, so 25 years up to 7 years, and then also scheduled purging as well, so putting the purge routines, so deleting the records from the archive, putting those on the scheduler as well. We also, in this package, give you the availability of the Purge-it software for any new JD Edwards release as well. So if you're on 9.0, for example, now you sign up for the package, and then in a couple of years you decide to then upgrade to 9.2, then the provision of the 9.2 Purge-it software is made available in this package, and then we have more review workshops as well. So if you wanted to keep a tighter rein on it, then we've got quarterly review workshops in this package. And then in the final package, Enterprise, I did refer to, I didn't think about it until afterwards, a little bit of a Star Trek reference there, but Enterprise, that's our top level package. So you get everything in all of the other packages, plus you get data fixing routines for particular error messages as they become available through the Purge-it software, and these are going to be created for specific error messages that we find that stop data being purged and archived, but which you can then fix via a routine and that you can construct logic around. Okay, so if it's something where you have to manually go in and make a subconscious or a conscious decision as to I need to press this button or do that, or things that are a bit loose, then maybe that's a manual fix. But these are routines where we can create something as a UBE and then go off and fix a bulk set of data for you. So data fixing routines. The purging from the archive, we can also do manual purging up to 4 times a year within this package as well. And I mentioned the availability of the Purge-it software for any new JD Edwards releases in the previous package. Well, in this package, we'll also install that, technically configure it, and also migrate your archive data from the previous release as well. If you're on an earlier package and you needed to do that kind of an upgrade, then that option is available as a one-off price as well. So we're not going to stymie you in any way there. And also ongoing reporting as well. So where we had quarterly reporting or annual reporting before, then this is a more frequent reporting basis as well. So lots of different options there across the 5 different packages. Hopefully you'll be able to find one package which suits you. So in terms of the archiving as a service offering as a whole, let's just quick recap of it. So it's affordable. You don't have the upfront costs. Hopefully you can then include it in OPEX instead of CAPEX, and the decision process might also then be lower down and just kept within the IT area, maybe up to CIO level, as opposed to going to board, maybe, I don't know, depending on what the approval levels are like. The services are spread into the price. So as Mike said before, we're taking a bit of a hit up front in providing a lot more services than you're actually paying for in year 1. But for your perspective, the actual payments are the same spread across the term of the contract. The archiving is outsourced, so you don't have to maintain or create or maintain any in-house niche knowledge. Niche. We say niche in the UK. Niche knowledge, and also it allows you to legally comply with either your existing data retention policy, or if you don't have one, then we've got that template data retention policy document, which you can then have when you become a Purge-it / archiving as a service customer as well. It addresses the it's a low priority problem, but looking back at the poll information where nobody said we can't see any reason to archive, then all of you do see it as a higher priority activity. And also it's a very quick delivery cycle as well. So in that first year where we're doing the catch-up purging and archiving, we've done, for customers, we've done a full round of PY archiving and a full round of production archiving. So from receiving purchase order to finish purging and archiving in production, we've done that in as little as a month. So if you do need it actioned quickly, then we can do it. Especially, we're at the end of October now. If you wanted to do something before the end of the year, before the end of the budget cycle, you got a bit of spare money, give us a call. Only two disadvantages. One is the software's not owned because it's leased throughout the term of the contract, and you're signing up for a 1, 3, or a 5-year commitment. So that's the only two disadvantages, really.
Great, thanks, Russ. I'm going to switch over, do a bit of a comparison between them. I did notice one attendee had raised their hand. Just a reminder, if there are questions you want to ask, do submit them via the questions panel, and we'll cycle back to them. Just as an aside, Russ, we have not had any questions come in since the last time, so we'll just continue on. So from the perspective of archiving as a service, our view is that it's a little bit more affordable. As Russ mentioned, no upfront costs. Typically, it can be included in operating expenses as opposed to CapEx. The services are spread into the price. The archiving is outsourced, so you don't have to pick up the knowledge yourself. You're still complying with your data retention. We believe this should help organizations address it's a low priority. We so often hear it's a C item, although we want to do it. We don't have the time, we don't have the investment. So hopefully that'll take care of it. Perpetual license, you own the software. You have more flexibility in terms of the service delivery. If you want to pick it up yourself, take it on in-house. We've had a number of customers do it. Perpetual license is probably a better way to go for you. And the perpetual license is just a 1-year commitment to the maintenance. So a bit of differences there. Honestly, if I'm looking at this, if I'm a customer, my first choice or my first cut is, do I want to pick it up in-house? If I do, it's probably not as much of an option for me for the archiving as a service. If I am going to do archiving as a service, the tiers will be determined by, do I want to purge? Do I want, in addition to the archiving, do I have custom tables? What's the level of complexity that I've got? That will probably determine for me which tier I go into. And the last point is, if I don't have any issues with the CapEx side of it, perpetual license is probably a better choice from that side, all other things being equal. So that's just Mike's perspective on it, because I'm always so shy about sharing my opinion. No questions so far on this that I can see, Russ.
We've just got another one come in, actually.
Okay.
That's okay. It says, is manual purging using scripts, Oracle in our case, or using the Click IT tool? I'll take that one. It's
sure.
The purging from the archive is done using the Purge-it custom module. So the Purge-it custom module, you configure it within the JD Edwards toolset, just like the rest of the Purge-it software, and it also links into all of the auditing functionality, also giving you the ability to see who ran it, when they ran it, reverse the routines as well if you need to, and also track it through the graphical dashboards as well.
Okay, great, thanks. So we probably don't have time for a full run through. Do you think it would make sense at all? Actually, tell you what, if it's okay, let's go through the last couple of slides. There aren't a lot. Then we can maybe do a quick tour into at least the dashboard side of things. Yep. So, make sense?
Yep. Perfect.
Okay. We wanted to share this with you. We took the time to do a survey of Purge-it customers. There's some marketing stuff on here. 95% is the most cost-effective and easy to use. Close to 25% put Purge-it in to replace other products that are out there. 3/4 bought it to avoid having to learn a third-party product. The interesting part on here from a user perspective is 85% of the customers do annual or as required purges, and the as required is probably more frequently than annual. 95% said that they were purged as part of an upgrade, and 85% said they would do so before. We get an awful lot of questions from customers about, I'm heading into an upgrade, I'm heading into a migration, should I purge? So the clear perspective from your peers in the marketplace has been, yeah, you should, because that's what they did, and yeah, you should do this before you do your upgrade. It just makes everything so much cleaner. So in terms of next steps that can do, one of the things that it's interesting, Russ and I have, I think 3 ongoing just from the last couple of days. One of the things we offer is table analysis. So we send you a document that says, tell us, run these processes to give us your information on your tables. We will turn that back around to you and say, here's where your heavy hitters are. You really need to purge on GL, AP, AR, sales order, and manufacturing. Purchasing isn't too bad. Payroll's not too bad. And oh, by the way, you've got a stinking pile of custom tables that could really benefit from it. So we will look at the data that you provide from the tables, give you recommendations back, and give you a bit of a sense for where you could get to if you tackled the project finally. We are going to show a very little bit of the actual Purge-it product. If you haven't seen it, we can certainly arrange for a personalized presentation on that. We do have a number of case studies from existing customers. Happy to share that with you. You want to have further discussions around what a purge project could look like at a high level, detailed level, and whether archive as a service or the classic model would work for you. Be thrilled to do that. And also quotes, and it could be quotes on either side so you can see what the differences might be. So more than happy to do that. We got about 5 minutes left, Russ. Is that enough time for you to do a quick jump in on your side, or?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I'm going to make you the presenter then, and you can do your stuff.
Here we go. Okay, let's pop those away. So you can see my screen okay?
I can.
Excellent. Okay, so as Mike says, we're just going to go into the dashboards. Purge-it, completely built within the JD Edwards system. You access it via tasks and task relationships from this task view. And the infrastructure is a set of programs that are common to all of the other modules here. Within the daily processing tab here, we've got our traditional sort of grid-based entry into all of our audit data, the session run history. But a few years ago, we created these 2 dashboards as well. The session dashboard is where we can see information about all of the purge and archive routines that have run. So if you've got things set up on the scheduler or we're running things manually for you, you'll get a unique number every time we run a routine. We have loads of information there about what job it was that was run, what's its status, is it a proof or an update, when we ran it, and also how much data has been archived as well. And if any of these jobs are running, this number is dynamic, so it will change as the purge and archive routines run. You've also got the ability to do things like reprint the purge report, or if there's a certain situation and you go, oh, actually, that bit shouldn't have been archived, you can run it. You can run a reversal just with a single click there, just with that button. You can also drill down into detailed audit data as well. So for each of the sessions, you can then go off and you can see what documents have been processed and what their particular statuses were as well. But this session dashboard really comes into its own in the sense that it's a JD Edwards Power Form. So as we run the purge and archive routines, we can then go off and see all of the information that's related to that as well. So here, this is inventory. We're seeing this blue section was purged and archived, which is reflected in the blue bar chart over here. We've got a few errors there, and because this is our system where we run things and then reverse them and run things and reverse them, these bypassed error transactions here are actually the summary records that we've processed as well. But you can also see all of the exceptions that we've encountered as well. So we can't archive this particular inventory transaction because the original sales order still exists. So we need to keep the data integrity between the different modules for those things. And as you flick through the different modules, then the dynamics change, the screens change accordingly. So that's one of the dashboards. The other dashboard is an environment dashboard. And this one is completely read-only, so it's nice and safe to just go in and have a play around with. And basically what you're doing here is you're looking at the whole environment, splitting it down to the live and the archive, the whole system, splitting it down to the live and the archive environment, as you can see here up in the top corner. We're then looking in production. We're then splitting it down by module. In the archive, we're splitting it down by module as well. You can view things by number of records or by database size, whichever is important to you. Business tends to be interested in number of records. IT tends to be interested in database size. And then for each of those modules, you can click on a segment, and then it drills down into the individual tables, the record counts that are within live and archive, and also the sizes in live and archive as well. So we can see here we've got AP, it's selected by default. Here are the AP tables that we've archived, how that's split between live and archive there, and also you can see it graphically here as well. So if I click on GL, for example, that repositions and it says this is the FO911. Well, let me just zoom out a little bit more. There we go. So that's the FO911. This is in live and that's in the archive. If I clicked on payroll and HR, goes off and it shows me all 42 tables that we archive within this particular module, and we go, oh yeah, there's a good archiving rate there, but oh, what's happened with that table? Okay, that's the FO8042. Let's drill down into that and find out a little bit more information about why that hasn't been archived as well. And we can also see when each routine was each module was last archived as well. And from from our perspective, when we go off and run the purge and archive routines, we can click on one of those links and it will just take us straight across to the actual purge and archive routine again. So we can go off and resubmit the job. In this dashboard as well, just last point, on the bottom, we've got a trend analysis as well. So not very good demo data here, but you'll see overall data size goes up. Production size should stay pretty level. But if you get to the point where production size is growing in line with the overall data size, that means you haven't been archiving. So then you go, oh, okay, let's archive, and then continue off like that. Sorry about the voice.
End of a long day for you and lots of talking last little bit, so totally understood. That's awesome, Russ. I love seeing this part. I love the Power Forms part. The graphical side really makes it real for people, and the ability to click through and see what's happening. That's just wonderful. A nice example, too, of using some of the new capabilities and features that come along with, in this case, Enterprise One, and building it into the product because it's OBI. So I'm going to take control back here again. And so that's the end of it here, folks. We will be reaching out to each of you. First of all, thanks for the time today. We hope this has been helpful. If you are not familiar with the Purge-it solution and want to see more, absolutely happy to show that. We can also point you to some recorded webinars that we have from prior sessions and details on the Purge-it solution. So we hope this has been helpful for you. We thank you for your time and attention. We will keep this open for another couple of minutes in case there's any last questions from folks. And other than that, thanks for your time. Remember the survey on your way out if you can complete the information there and help us. And we will look forward to chatting with you and seeing if there's ways that archiving as a service could help you get past the conundrum of wanting to do an archive and purge, but not having the approval to do it.
Oh, we've got a question come in. If you start out as an advanced package customer but find that you need to be in the professional package, can you upgrade prior to the end of your contracted time? I would have thought that would have been possible. Yep. No problems with that one.
Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Russ.
That's okay. My pleasure.